I do not believe in the power of art, as it stands today. In fact, I believe that a great change must be made in order to steer it off its current path to the disastrous collapse of what we might today call music performance. It seems that music schools are striving to convince us of their great talent for replacing stirring and innovative approaches to music with dull, simple, and sleep-inducing recreations. Making art, or performing, seems no longer to feed the soul, or to express emotion. Performing seems now to have been suffocated into an attitude of choked indifference. Performing is no longer freeing and beautiful, but imprisoning and hateful to perspective. Do not misunderstand me. I don't say that art is not freeing, but rather making art is not freeing, because the finished product of a work has all priority over the actual process of creating it. Upon a time, the finished product was a mere result of the artist and performers freeing themselves to make it, a means, a display of the wonderful end of creating, a way of recording. Nowadays, the process of creating a work of art is only understood as constraining the performer to do what the work says. The performer is less than a collaborator in the making of a work, or even a vehicle for the art. They are seen almost as an obstacle to be overcome in order to achieve the perfection of a work, all thanks to teachers. A teacher is someone who makes you feel so ashamed of who you are that you feel forced to change. I have no doubt that what some advertise as a good teacher is only someone who shames the less gifted into quitting in order to give the teacher a higher success rate, rather than actually helping them toward real improvement. They do not create an environment to nurture and grow a child's individual perspective and approach to performance, but rather an environment which includes only the teacher's small-minded definition of what is quote-unquote good, with a capital G, written by a pen held in the uptight hand of academia. What would you do if every time you spoke, someone rolled their eyes? Children are no longer given an opportunity to perform or practice for the sake of performing or practicing, but only ever to amount to being a subject of criticism. When a child begins to play music, they are a subject of a teacher's criticism, and hopes that they can, one day, be good enough to be the subject of another, more prestigious teacher's criticism. This is what happens when music is made for the teacher, for the university. Take Victor Hugo's Archdeacon Claude Frollo proclaiming that printing and the church are at battle, a battle which will only end with the death of one or the other. We can understand this image today as professorship and artistry being at battle, one which will wage until one must yield to submissive silence and servitude of the other. If music exists for the performer, then the creations of the composer and the attention of the audience can be understood as being in service to the outward capabilities and inward enjoyment of the player. If music exists for the audience, then the abilities of the performers and the creations of the composer can be understood as being in service to the interest and enjoyment of the listeners. If music exists for the composer, then the abilities of the performers and the attention of the audience can be understood as being in service to the artistic and emotional intentions of the composer's music. However, if music exists for the university, the creations of the composer, the abilities of the performers, and the attention of the audience are all three dismissed into surrender to the preservation of a reputation. The first two of these configurations have a long history in many genres of music, while the third is somewhat new in comparison. The fourth, however, is something that I find to be entirely new and even fairly unnoticed by some. This fourth configuration may become harmful as well as problematic to artists and their work, making the process of creation no longer collective and imaginative, but only bowing down to the high pontiff of the university. The solution, I believe, seems to be a reconsideration of what it means to make art. I will close with a short poem I wrote in mid-July of 2026, which conveys strongly my ideas on art as highlighting the creation process rather than the creation result. It reads as follows. Imagine the gap Hamlet fills, that void in all its nothingness, so despicable to Shakespeare that he sacrificed the play in order to be rid of it, as Abraham atop Mount Moriah. Think on the monstrous blank canvas soaking under each masterpiece of Caravaggio, egregious enough to inspire the man to dispose of it. Consider the silence that Beethoven kills with his sonatas, so horrific that he battled it day and night to suffocate it. Be in that. Live there. Breathe it in. Soak it in. But only for a moment. This art is great, not because it lives on through time being experienced by countless generations, but it lives on through time being experienced by countless generations because their mothers and fathers were brave enough to destroy the non-art that plagued those same generations daily. The gap, the void, the stillness, the silence. This is why art exists. Not to be consumed, but to be made. The first generation did not sing to be heard, but to sing. Let us be like them. In their invention of art, the first generation could not be wanting it, for art had not yet existed, but only wanted the death of its opposite. Let us be like them. Creation exists to be made. Let us create, and in so doing, destroy, and destroy beautifully.